big ball. Going for the big shot, and he hits it.
That's batted into the air, intercepted, and the Bears are going to win it.
So if there's a candidate for, I guess, biggest moment of the year, given that it is almost the end of 2025, that Caleb Williams game-winning touchdown throw to DJ Moore has to surely be a top 5 moment, I guess, in recent Bears memory, but also top 5 moment for the city of Chicago in the year 2025. And who knows, I mean, even 2024, 3-2-1-0 as well. Welcome into the Halas Beat, brought to you by the Bear Report. Usayd, Koshul, Steve, Letizia here. You guys can check us out on Twitter at CFC Bears, at Halas Beat, and at Usayd Koshul. Steve, it is the holiday season. Obviously, we got Christmas, Hanukkah, all that type of good stuff. But for the Bears, I mean, Christmas came a couple days early if you're a Bears fan.
Yeah, I mean, Bears beat the Packers. I'm still buzzing from that game. And on Saturday night, and then on Sunday, the Lions lose to clinch a playoff spot for the Bears, which will be the first playoff appearance in 5 years. So it's exciting times. And then we got the holidays coming up here. It's always nice to kind of lock up that playoff spot a few weeks early. They still got to play for the division. They're kind of in the driver's seat there, and they control their own destiny. But just having beating the Packers in general, even when you're a bad team, is exciting. So you got that. Now you got the clinch division or clinch the playoff spot, and then one more win and we clinch the division. So another big week coming up this week.
And regarding clinching the division, we are going to mention we're about 2-ish hours away, just under 2 hours from 49ers Colts kicking off on Monday night. So I hope that the Colts end up winning, because a 49ers loss does help the Bears' case in the sense of the game this weekend, because the Bears are playing the 49ers on Sunday night, but also making sure that the Bears are 1 seed higher in the playoffs compared to where they could possibly end up, right? So It's crazy because we got 5 NFC teams in the playoffs already, teams that have had very successful seasons. And it's interesting because for the Bears, I mean, there's been a lot of narratives regarding this team. When Ben Johnson was hired in January, it was, well, this is a young team. It's a young roster. They've got some pieces in place, but there's a lot they have to fix. So at best, they win 8 or 9 games this year. Then there was the whole hey, we like the talent they have and we like the potential that they have, but this team's going to win 5, 6, or 7 games this year, which, again, if you're listening to this, please don't do the dumb 6-7 trend, because this is episode 67, and we're thankful the Bears haven't won 6 or 7 games this year. They've won 11 games so far with the chance to win 12 and 13. So the Bears have, to me, at least surpassed expectations this year. And now the question's obviously going to start shifting to, okay, how much more can this team accomplish as we sort of get into the last 2 games of the season here, plus that guaranteed playoff game at this point?
Yeah, and back with clinching the wild card, or clinching at least a wild card, it's important because this NFC is really tough this year. There's going to be a team in the NFC that wins 10, 11 games and doesn't make the playoffs. So that's always kind of been in the back of my mind. So the fact that they were able to, lock that in early and lock up a spot is really good. I mean, it would have been devastating if the Bears won 11 games this year and didn't make the playoffs because, the Lions won out and so on. So it's really good to get that locked up. But yeah, I tweeted out, kind of what people's expectations were, and we got some responses that we'll go through. Obviously they've exceeded my expectations tremendously. I think I was probably even like the low man on them kind of coming into the season. So they've already blown past those expectations, but I also think it's okay to kind of update your expectations as the year goes on. It's nice that they surpassed preseason expectations, but now we're an 11-4 team, or we've locked up a playoff spot we're most likely, well, maybe not most likely, but we have a really good chance of winning the division. I think it's okay to have some more expectations for the playoffs as well, and not just say, hey, we're happy to be here, even though we are definitely happy to be here based on where we've been. So for me, I want to see at least a playoff. I want to see at least 1 win in the playoffs. I think that would go a long way to dispelling some of these, takes that other fans of other teams have of the Bears still being frauds despite winning 11 games, being the Packers and being the Eagles and being all these teams. I think winning at least one playoff game shows the rest of the NFL that this is not a fluke. The Bears are winning this way because they're a good team, and that gives you a lot of momentum going into next year. Obviously, if you can, win the NFC or win a Super Bowl, that's fantastic. But I want to see at least one playoff one.
And I will admit, the last time that this team won a playoff game, I looked back at it, I was probably in elementary or middle school. So
it was It was 2011. Sorry to cut you off, but I saw the graphic earlier today. It was 2011 the last time they won it, and there are only 3 teams who have gone longer without winning a playoff game than the Bears. So I really want to get off that graphic and get that going. So sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, but I'm just saying, right? Like the last time this team won a playoff game, it's crazy because it's like we were obviously much younger. And so we look at this thing and it's kind of like, wow, it's been that long. Which I remember after the Cubs won the Super Bowl. The Cubs won the World Series. The first graphic that popped up back then was, well, the Bears are now the team that has like the Chicago sports franchise that has gone the longest without winning a championship. And 10 years later, that streak still rings true. But as you mentioned, we're going to be getting into some of our, responses that we got with the tweet you put out. So let's just get right into it. At Matthew Lee Rosen says, comparison, Jay Cutler was 2-11 versus Green Bay, including a start with Denver. Mitch Trubisky was 1-6 against Green Bay. Justin Fields was 0-6, and then Caleb Williams is 2-2. He goes on to say that all 4 games essentially came down to final play, 2 walk-off wins. The losses were a blocked field goal on the final snap and a 4th down interception in the red zone. So to me, this tweet right here requires some sort of context, right? Because if we're going to talk about the success that this team has had, which I've also seen people say that they're completely fine with the Bears going 2-14 or 2-15 every year as long as they beat the Packers. I don't know how happy I'd be if my team was only winning 2 games a year but beating the Packers every year. That's a whole other discussion. But I do want to say this. You talk about Cutler being 2-10 basically in a Bears uniform, and then Trubisky being 1-6 and Fields being 0-6. The big thing to understand there is that the first 3 names had significantly worse situations in the grand scheme of things compared to whatever Caleb Williams has now. Lovie Smith was a good coach, but again, Lovie could never find an offensive coordinator. And then you look at Trubisky and Fields. Well, the one win that Trubisky had against Green Bay was with Matt Nagy and that sort of really good defense at the helm. And then Justin Fields, the Bears, I still feel sorry for Justin Fields because the Bears never put him in position to really succeed the way that his talent flashed time and time again, right? And then with Caleb Williams, he's almost at the end of his second year here, his second full regular season. And yes, these games have been a lot closer, but I also believe that part of that success is because Thomas Brown was a much better head coach than, even in the interim, as anything Matt Eberflus bought. And then Ben Johnson's obviously been much better than anything that the Bears have had as head coaches for the first 3 guys.
Yeah, I think with just kind of going down the list with Cutler, the Bears had some good teams, with Cutler. Yeah, their offense was never great, but they had some dominant defenses. That is a bad mark, I'd say, for Cutler. The fact that he was never able to beat them. Trubisky, we talk about, people kind of forget. The Bears went to the playoffs twice with Trubisky as their quarterback. So they weren't as bad as, some of the teams we've seen in recent past. So that 1-6 mark isn't very good. The thing about both those guys is it's not so much the team surrounding those guys, it's they were going up against Aaron Rodgers, who's a Hall of Fame quarterback. And he just, he owned us for a while there. With Justin Fields, the team around Justin Fields is never really that competitive. And he did see Aaron Rodgers, at least some of those games against Aaron Rodgers, but a lot of them against Love. But the team around Justin Fields, like you said, it wasn't very good. It can't put that all on Fields. But I think the the most impressive thing here is the Caleb Williams being 2-2, but like he said, could easily be 3-1, and could be 4-0, but definitely easily could be 3-1 with that blocked field goal last year being one of those losses. So it does seem like kind of the tides are turning. I think Jordan Love, like we've discussed Jordan Love a lot on this podcast, he's a good quarterback, but he doesn't scare you like Aaron Rodgers did or even Brett Favre did. So having this kind of, this start against the Packers in Caleb Williams' career is really, really nice to see. And one of those wins, came last year when, the team surrounding him was not very good and the coaching surrounding him was not very good. And one of those losses, like that blocked field goal, was last year in that same circumstance. So if he could have been 2-0 against the Packers last year before getting Ben Johnson, that's really, really impressive. I think it's nice to have kind of the tides turning, and it's also nice to have competitive games against the Packers now. I mean, before Caleb Williams, you go into a Packers game, and obviously you're hoping the Bears win, but you didn't have a lot of hope. And now I think we have some hope going against them, and it's going to be a battle for the next decade. With these teams, I don't see many 49-0 at halftime games coming anymore when the Bears play the Packers. So I think this is it's really exciting to see, and even those losses, man, those are tight losses. So we're in good shape.
I do want to say I would love to see a 49-0 halftime deficit in a Bears-Packers game, but I want that to be Bears 49, Packers nothing, so that I can start writing my post-game thoughts and all that literally at halftime. One of the big things I want to mention here is that Caleb was 19 for 34 on Saturday night, and we'll get into some of the film later on. We've got 3 of the 4 plays in overtime lined up for you guys. The big thing I want to mention is this, though, is Caleb's final stat line from Green Bay. 19 for 34, 55.9% of his passes completed, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and a 98.9 passer rating. So I look at this thing, and he was much better, honestly, in every single category across the board this time around. The big thing, though, is that he didn't have any turnovers, which... Again, both the games against the Packers this year, he's had only the 1 interception, which was the final play of the game 3 weeks ago. But again, he's played relatively safe football, which is so much better than anything we've seen. So again, Caleb's safe with the ball. Moving on here, though, we got our guy Bobo, who's at Bobo_Destroyer, saying this team can compete for a bowl, and it's more about the coaches than anything. The only flaws are the lack of D-line pass rush and the inconsistencies on offense. I've got no doubt Ben Johnson can clean those up, and even if you fall behind, they've proven they can compete with the best. Well, the Bears can compete with anybody. I believe that Saturday night's game fully solidified that if you were to put the Bears and the Seahawks on the same field right now, or you were to put the Bears and the Patriots, or the Bears and the Rams, or the Bears and Buffalo or the LA Chargers on the same field right now, Ben Johnson's figuring out a way to tear that defense, the opposing defense, apart. That much to me is something that I'm convinced of. Now, the big thing with me here is this, though. Regarding that pass rush, I'm going to go back to what I've been saying all season. Has production matched investment? Not necessarily at times, but the positive for this team is that Austin Booker has played a lot better football than a lot of people expect. Grady Jarrett's been pretty solid. Maybe he hasn't lived up to the contract, but he's been good for the 31, 32-year-old pass rusher that he is. And then Montez Sweat is up to, I believe, 9.5 sacks. So again, he's a guy that is finally getting the consistency that he needs to turn into a good pass rusher for the Bears. Now, that said, I'm probably going to be here over the next couple of days, start to scout just like you do. Still start scouting some of these top edge rushers for next year's draft, because to me, this defense is good. There's going to be some turnover next year in the secondary that they're going to have to sort of figure out. But if we do want this team to start seriously competing and contending for a Super Bowl year in and year out, there's a couple different things that they need to get cleaned up. But overall, like Bobo said, I mean, this team is good enough to compete for a Super Bowl right now. And I do think that there's a legitimate argument to be made for anyone that believes, yeah, the Bears could be playing in the Super Bowl in a couple weeks.
Yeah, the defensive line really still scares me. I don't think it's not a Super Bowl caliber defensive line. So can they win a Super Bowl? Probably, like, yes, I guess so. I think they're eventually going to run into a team that's going to be able to kind of pick them apart defensively. I think the coaching is doing everything they can to kind of keep them in these games, and that will continue into the playoffs. But eventually, you're going to have to get a pass rush, and yeah, Montez Sweat has racked up some sacks. Booker's been playing better. Grady Jarrett's been playing better as of late. But a lot of those sacks are coverage sacks or just effort sacks, and not so much winning cleanly and getting the quarterback to the ground. So they're going to run into a team like I'm just looking at other teams in the NFC. The Matt Stafford with the Rams. If you don't get pressure on him, he's going to pick you apart. Sam Darnold has his flaws, but his flaws come out when you get pressure on the quarterback. If you let him sit in the pocket, he will pick you apart. We've seen Jordan Love to do that as well. If you blitz Jordan Love, he can beat you. So I just don't see the Bears winning. What is it? They have to win 4 games, including the Super Bowl. At some point, that's going to catch up to them this year. So I don't think they're really Super Bowl contenders. I think they have exceeded expectations, and I hope we see at least one win in the Super Bowl in the playoffs. But I think Super Bowl, they'd have to have a lot of things bounce their way. Never say never. I'm not saying it's a 0% chance, but it's going to be really hard to win 4 games without getting any pressure on the quarterback. But like you said, the coaching is going to keep them in it. They're going to be competitive. They're not going to go to the playoffs and look outmatched. But it's just going to be, they're going to have to have everything absolutely bounce their way to do that. But I do think, like you said, start scouting defensive linemen, D tackles, and edge rushers because they need to kind of overhaul that position. Unfortunately for them, they've spent they're not getting production out of their defensive line, and they've spent a lot of money on their defensive line. So it's not as easy as, we can cut someone, save money, and then reinvest in the defensive line because a lot of draft picks and a lot of money is already invested there. They're going to have to get a little creative, maybe a trade for an edge rusher or something. But and especially when we're talking about the Bears making the playoffs now, they're going to have a pick in the late 20s in the draft. So it's not as easy as just saying, hey, just pick a pass rusher in the first round and you'll be good. Not many pass rushers that get picked 25 or later come in right away and are immediately good pass rushers. It's not saying you can't get a good pass rusher who develops into a premium player, but first year, it's hard to find those guys at that point in the draft. So, they're definitely going to have to address the position of the draft, but I wouldn't be counting on a rookie at that point in the draft coming in and making a huge difference.
Just saying, you guys heard it from us here first. Do not be surprised if Missouri defensive end Zion Young is who the Bears ultimately end up picking. And I'm just throwing that out there because he's a prototypical Ryan Poles first round pick, which, again, my track record has been dating back to 2021. 2018 actually. I've hit on every single one of the Bears first round picks. Okay, so Captain Dan Zibar here at CPT and Dan Zibar says, I think playoffs itself is a success given the last 3 seasons we've seen. So I agree with this statement here. Now, my question is also this, though, is it's one thing to make the playoffs, as you've alluded to, Steve. It's another thing, can the Bears win a playoff game? Because they weren't close in 2020 knocking off the Saints. They were somewhat close due to the beating the Eagles, but ultimately didn't get the job done. To me, I kind of look at this thing and I say, yeah, you should be happy that the Bears are playing another week of football and playing football in the second weekend of January. But ultimately, as you also mentioned with the previous one, the question is, can this team overcome a opponent that they maybe haven't seen so far, right? So like the Bears haven't played whoever is going to win the NFC South. The Bears, if the Bears were, they'd probably steamroll Tampa Bay or Carolina right now, depending on who wins that division. The Bears also haven't played Seattle or the LA Rams. Well, those are 2 teams that have the continuity that the Bears simply do not. And they've got veteran quarterbacks that the Bears simply don't have. But again, Ben Johnson, knowing him, is going to figure out a way to get past those teams and compete with them when push comes to shove. So to me, I kind of look at this whole thing and I really say playoff caliber football is a very different animal For this team, I hope that they're not playing Green Bay in the playoffs in the first round. Like, yes, it'd be cool and all that, but again, I'd rather see them play another team such as Philadelphia or such as the whoever ends up winning the NFC South, which I do believe could be possible based on the way that things shake out, or even playing a team such as Detroit, for example, because honestly, I mean, the Bears would be a very good matchup for Detroit. And as of Monday, the 22nd, it's not like Detroit's statistically eliminated from the playoffs. And so it's a situation here to where, the Bears could even match up pretty well with the 49ers, but ultimately at this point, with the way that the playoffs have gone in the NFC, I mean, the Bears do have a shot at the number 1 seed, which is awesome. They're pretty much at this point, bearing that they lose out, guaranteed to host a game at home in the playoffs.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting who they play. I've been playing around with like the NFL playoff machine a lot for these last couple weeks and after the Packers game, and it's looking like it's just based on all the combination I did. It's looking like it's going to be either probably the Packers. If not the Packers, then probably like the 49ers or the Seahawks, or I guess the loser of the Seahawks and Rams. Whoever wins that division, the other one would be kind of who you're playing. So we have the 49ers this week. We haven't played them yet, obviously, but you've got them this week, so we'll have a good understanding of who they are. With the Packers, we've obviously played them twice. I don't think the Bears really match up well against the Packers, to be honest. I know both games went down to the wire, and we won one of them, but I would much rather play the Lions if we have to. I don't, the Bears might be in a situation where in week 18 they're playing the Lions. They might have been in a situation where they might sit their starters so that the Lions win and knock the Packers out of the playoffs, and then they get the Lions in the first round. So that's a conversation, do we have too? It depends on obviously what happens this weekend, but I would much rather play the Lions than the Packers. The Lions are banged up. I don't think, they still got good players, but they have so many injuries. The Packers have obviously Michael Parsons going down is huge for them, but the Lions have, 7 or 8 key guys who are out. So playing them, I'm not really as scared of. 49ers, I think we can beat. Like I said, with the Rams and Seahawks, I don't want to play either of those teams because I think those are two quarterbacks who can really who you beat them by pressuring them with 4, and I don't think the Bears can really do that. So I'm nervous about those two teams. But the Lions, I'm not really that scared of. 49ers, I think we obviously could beat the Packers as well. I just think that's a tougher matchup for us.
And a quick note to make here, as we've mentioned, there is a path for the Bears to potentially secure the number 1 seed in the NFC and get that first round bye, not play a wild card game and just have to play in the divisional and championship game then. Now, the Rams, for the next 2 games, they are playing the Falcons and then the Cardinals, which those are 2 games the Rams are going to win. And then Seattle's playing the Panthers this Sunday, as well as the 49ers. So really, if you're the Bears, I mean, that Seattle-San Francisco Week 18 matchup is going to hold a ton of weight. And the reason being is because that's going to be one of the ones that ends up basically going down to the wire and could even determine who ends up winning the NFC West. So there's a ton to look at there. As we mentioned earlier, guys, we're going to take some time here to look at the Bears' 3 of the Bears' 4 plays in overtime. It was a 4-play, 64-yard drive that took about 4 to 5 minutes off the clock. The Bears ended up basically defeating the Packers with a big kill shot. Caleb Williams' throwaway was the first one. He was looking for Olamide Zaccheaus in the flat, and then a Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift run, and then the shot to DJ Moore to win the game. Again, if you're listening to the audio version of this and you want to check the film out, the All-22, head over to the Bear Report YouTube channel and you will see all the stuff there. So let's just get right into the first play here. So the big thing to really look at here is the Packers are basically playing man coverage here. They've dropped the 2 safeties into coverage as well. So they're in a 2-high shell. And this to me is where Ben Johnson's a total wizard, because the Bears at the time of the snap, they leave Rashawn Gary unblocked, who's at the bottom of the screen here. So he thinks he's got a free play, but then Olamide Zaccheaus comes rushing over, whereas Durham Smith takes motions over to the other, or goes to the other side of the formation, and so there's a ton of misdirection here that basically opens up a big lane for DeAndre Swift. So just rolling through the clip here real quickly, as you guys can see, and we're gonna full screen this thing, but boom, right there. Rashawn Gary thinks he's got a free run, and then what happens is nope, he doesn't have a free run. He can't stuff things in the backfield, and then boom. What do you think here, Steve?
Well, I haven't really, this is the first time I'm kind of watching. So what I'm thinking, my first thought is DeAndre Swift. Last year, 2024, DeAndre Swift does not get 7-8 yards on this play. He gets 3 yards, but he really fights through contact here. Can you run it one more time? I do love all the misdirection that Ben Johnson, always throw those wrinkles in there, because you got. It looks like outside zone, maybe. It's hard to tell from this angle, but outside zone. But then you have Zaccheaus kind of coming back and crack blocking that, Rashawn Gary. And then I remember that fumble. That fumble was a little bit nerve wracking. But yeah, really good play. But I think DeAndre Swift really makes this work. I mean, he has a big hole, but he hits it hard, and he runs over a guy for about 4 extra yards. That sets up a 2nd and 3. It allows them to. I think the next play. The next play was a throwaway, but after that it was 3rd and 3. That allowed them to run the ball again, rather than having to drop back, 3rd and 6, having to drop back and pass. So yeah, run it from this angle. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, so a little outside zone, and then with a cutback lane. Yeah, that's a the offensive line did their job. Zaccheaus coming around. I mean, how many pounds is he giving up on Rashawn Gary? Rashawn Gary really needs to crash. I mean, he needs to crash down a lot harder on Zaccheaus here if they want to have any chance of stopping this. So run it one more time. I want to look at Zaccheaus and Gary.
Yeah, and one quick note I'm going to make here is look at Ozzy Trapilo and his eyes now. Basically, his whole job in an ideal world is this, right? So if the Bears were just sort of running this like this is how much of a mastermind Ben Johnson is in terms of disguising what this team is going to do. Okay, so first of all, you've got your 2 receivers here. Now, DJ Moore's on the line of scrimmage. Olamide Zaccheaus is off the line of scrimmage by about 1 to 1.5 yards. Now, immediately what happens is when you got the quarterback under center and you've got the tight end motioning over, you are basically trying to make them think, hey, we are running a flood concept to the field side. A flood concept, if you don't know, is basically when you get 3 receivers on the side of the field, okay, with a high, low, super low read, right? So like DJ Moore could have a corner, right? And then Zaccheaus would have a hitch or a curl or even a comeback. And then Smith would just have something in the flat. That's one of the ways you could sell this, but the way the Bears are, the reason that this is so important is because if we watch Ozzy Trapilo here, some people would say, well, he should just kick out and take Rashawn Gary on. Now, if you do that, the issue is that you are basically telling Kingsley Enagbare here, 56, I believe, that, hey, this gap is open and now to just shoot this gap. That happens while DeAndre Swift is getting tackled after gaining 3 yards. What Trapilo does is he's going to split Enagbare and Quay Walker here and work up to the 2nd level, and look at where his eyes are at right now. He could go with Enagbare or he could go with Quay Walker. And then as we look at this, boom, he decides, hey, I'm going to go here with Enagbare. Quay Walker's too far inside already. And then boom, DeAndre Swift gets a big gain. So when we talk about Ozzy Trapilo continuing to get better as a run blocker and pass protector, this is one of the big things that we're talking about there. Like Ozzy Trapilo made this big DeAndre Swift gain happen.
Yeah, and I think another thing that makes this happen is Caleb Williams, the threat he has as a boot player. Because look at Rashawn Gary, he was not really blocked by Zaccheaus. He was crashing down on Caleb Williams, expecting him kind of guarding that boot from coming around to the left side. That basically, Caleb Williams essentially blocked Rashawn Gary there. because look, you could see he's not going for the block, he's not going for the ball, he's going right for Caleb Williams, and then Trapilo get into the second level as well. And then at that point, once Trapilo gets to the second level, it turns into a one-on-one match between Quay Walker and DeAndre Swift. And DeAndre Swift can either make him miss or run right through his face, and he just ran through his face for 7 yards. So really nice play there. The misdirection that Ben Johnson throws into all of his run plays is really, really great to see.
All right, next one right here, getting into the big Kyle Monangai gain here. So this one is pretty much Ben Johnson saying F you to the Green Bay Packers. And the reason being is because you can see here, looking at this thing from the sideline shot, you've got the Bears and Packers have basically both stacked the box here. And when Monangai's in, I do want to mention this, that teams have all of a sudden started to naturally adjust and stack the box when Monangai's in because they anticipate run. But what you've also got here is you've got Cole Kmet here, you've got Colson Loveland here as a threat. And so as we kind of go through here and we run this whole thing, the big thing to keep in mind is this: Kmet's in motion, and then all of a sudden he's coming across the formation and Monangai gets a big run here. But one of the things we want to talk about here with this run play is that look how tight the Bears are to the line of scrimmage, right? So you basically got everyone from Cole Kmet to Darnell Wright. The Bears have overloaded one side here of the formation with Colson Loveland in a 2-point stance just off the line of scrimmage, with Kmet's also off the line of scrimmage while Olamide Zaccheaus is on the line of scrimmage. And then the big thing here is again, Kmet motions over at the time of the snap or just before the snap, and then that's creating all sorts of havoc because you've got one Packers DB here chasing Cole Kmet, accounting for him, and then you've got Colson Loveland coming over as well and just blocking up this gap here, which eventually leads to Kyle Monangai getting that big gain.
Yeah, this is good to see. I mean, we had outside zone on the first play, and then we got a gap concept here. So you have Cole Kmet pulling across the formation. He's going to kick out. I believe that's Lucas Van Ness on the edge there. And then you have your pull. Usually you'd have like a pulling guard, but the Bears aren't using a pulling guard. They're using a pulling tight end in Colson Loveland coming across the formation after the ball snapped. A little counter from a little delayed handoff counter, there. And then you have look at Dahlman there. With a seal, Joe Tooney with a seal, Zaccheaus getting to the second level just opens up a huge lane. This is a really nice block play. I really like this, the design of this with the delayed handoff and basically, your two tight ends pulling. I really like this play. And like I said before, this was after a throwaway from Caleb Williams. So it was 2nd and 3, the throwaway. This was 3rd and 3, and this is classic Ben Johnson saying 3rd and 3. We're going to run the ball. If we don't get it, we're going to go for it. But you can see it was just perfectly blocked, perfectly executed, and he ends up getting about, 10, 15 yards, whatever he got on this play.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to mention here is this, right? Is just watch the interior of the Bears offensive line here. I mean, we don't give Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, Joe Tooney enough credit for how good they've been. I mean, you look at right there, just freezing this picture here, you're basically going 3-on-3 here. And then look at Ozzie Trapilo and Darnell Wright as well. I mean, these guys have basically locked their players up, their matchups up without a doubt. And so that is about as picture perfect as it gets here for the Bears offensive line. And then you look and just run blocking in general. This right here, ladies and gentlemen, is in the coaching world is what we call teach tape. Like, this is what you show your players when you're like, this is what the perfect concept looks like. Which this Drew is counter right here, by the way. Mm-hmm. I
mean, Drew Dahlman, this block by Drew Dahlman, if you rewind it a little bit, is just absolutely fantastic, the way he creates that seal. I think this play, I mean, again, I'm watching this I watched it earlier in the week, but just once. So I'm watching this really examining this for the first time. But I almost feel like this play is with a designed cutback. You can see, because the way, can you play the clip? With the way that it's like, with those Kmet and Colson Loveland coming across the formation, you could see what happens with the linebackers. Go back a little bit. The linebackers all but all sell really hard when they see Komet coming across and when they see Loveland coming across. They run to the other side of the formation. But if you watch Dahlman, look how he swivels his hips and creates the seal between him and Tooney. So I think this was a designed cutback after the handoff from Anungai. I think that was all designed. I don't think that was a vision, he saw the cut back and took it. I think that's exactly how they designed that play. And the linebackers were just caught way out of position because they were expecting more of an outside run.
Speaking of being caught way out of position, so if you watch that game on Saturday night, Kayshawn Nixon had that cheap shot on DJ Moore, and then Kayshawn Nixon also had the game-winning interception a couple weeks ago, and then Kayshawn Nixon gave up the game-tying touchdown to Jade Walker, and then Kayshawn Nixon also gave up the game-winning touchdown to DJ Moore. So if you read my instant takeaways recap, the last thing that I talked about is how Kayshawn Nixon is a hero in both cities this year for this Bears-Packers rivalry, right? Because he was a hero a couple weeks ago in Green Bay. Now he's a hero here. But last play here, the Bears go for the kill shot, just getting into this thing here. So a few quick notes that I want to make. All right, first of all, we look here. Now, the Bears are in 13 personnel here. That's 3 tight ends, a running back, and then 1 wide receiver, okay? The reason that this is probably the biggest middle finger that Ben Johnson has given to Matt LaFleur to this date is because the reality of it is this, is you basically have here the I formation, right? So you've got Durham Smith, and anytime the Bears put Durham Smith in the backfield, they are telling the defense, hey, we are ready to go run no matter what. Okay, we're going to go run here. All right, it's just going to be a straight ISO up the middle. All right, which, again, with Monangai in, not hard to understand why the Bears would be doing that. But you've got Colston Loveland on the line of scrimmage here. Cole Kmet is about a half yard off the line of scrimmage. DJ Moore's up top here. So this is about as run play as it gets for the Bears. But then the difference is this, is that you get Kmet motioning over, and now all of a sudden what you have is this, is you've got 2 receiving threats on one side of the field, and just running this thing here. I mean, first of all, look at the job that Caleb Williams does selling the play fake, and then DJ Moore comes open underneath for, well, DJ Moore basically is one-on-one at that point. Now, the one quick note I'm going to make here is this, is watch these 2 Green Bay defenders here. I mean, they are literally guarding nobody when DJ Moore comes open for the touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this had run written all over it for everything the Bears did. The 13 personnel, you have 3 tight ends, and you are about 10 yards away from field goal range. All they need is a field goal to win the game. You just ran the ball twice for about 25 yards, and the Packers were in no way expecting them to go deep. If you go back to the sideline angle, look at the safeties kind of when they start. So they're about like 7 yards off the line off the ball, and even before they hike it or snap it, you could see that one safety on the right hand side coming even closer into the box. They were in no way. You could see him coming down right there. He's coming downhill immediately. He sees Loveland kind of flash across and backs up, but they were not expecting a deep ball here. I wasn't expecting a deep ball there. I don't think anyone was. And they got exactly the look they needed. Loveland is holding those safeties down, and then you just got a one-on-one jump ball. Not necessarily a jump ball. You just got a one-on-one situation with DJ Moore, who's your best receiver in this game, against Keyshawn Nixon, who's not a very good cornerback in my eyes. That's exactly the look they wanted. It's exactly the look they got. And Caleb Williams delivered one of the best balls I've ever seen. DJ Moore delivered with a great catch. I know PFF tweeted out, they grade every single throw, and they gave this throw a 2, which is the highest grade you can get. They've only given out a 2, and I believe it was like 25 throws in the history of PFF. So this was and it was the only throw that earned a 2 this season so far. This is one of the greatest throws I've ever seen. And how many times have the Bears lost from an Aaron Rodgers bomb for a touchdown? And it's just nice to see kind of the roles reversed here. What a throw, what a play, what a game.
Absolutely. And I want to bring attention here to Colston Loveland. So just watch Colston Loveland at the bottom of your screen here, and look at Durham Smythe as well. So let's just say this is a run play right there. Okay, let's just say it is run play all the way. Now the big thing with this is if you watch Durham Smith, first off, Durham Smith is coming. And he's probably going to take on Inigbare. Like, you watch Durham Smith here, he's kind of just like, let me figure out, see who the first threat is. That is something that only a veteran tight end, a guy that's been in the league as long as Durham Smith has, can accomplish. But when you look at Colston Loveland's route here, so again, he's in a 3-point stance, hand in the dirt, matched one-on-one with the corner and safety here. Now, look at how clean his route running is here, okay? It's literally just, hey, I'm going to get out of my break quickly, sink my hips, use what we refer to as like a little hand jab, get out of the way there, and then all of a sudden it's boom. Look at how quickly he breaks open. Because if DJ Moore's not open, you can bet Caleb Williams is trying to get Colston Loveland that ball. But that was just, I mean, again, the throw was one of the best that I've ever seen. And we got to hand it to the big boys here for holding it down in pass protection as well. Because this is phenomenal stuff here with the way that they slide the line and everything to the left end. Drew Dahlman just takes the defensive lineman out of the game there.
Yeah, and shout out to Smith too. I mean, that was not an easy block on Quay Walker was blitzing. He had to go across the formation, and he didn't light him up, or anything like that. He actually got beat, but he did just enough to give them Caleb Williams that extra split second to get that ball off. If he misses that block, then Quay Walker probably just crushes Caleb Williams, and then we're sitting here talking about why the hell was Ben Johnson calling a deep pass, in that play. So shout out to him. He's, he did his job there just enough to kind of make that work. But I mean, obviously it always comes down to just the quarterback and the wide receiver there. What a throw.
Yes, it does. We're going to go ahead. We're going to get out of here. But before we do, ladies and gentlemen, we want y'all to have a happy holiday season. Hope everyone gets time to rest, relax, spend a ton of time with family and friends. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at Halas Beat, at CFC Bears, and at Usayd Koshul. Make sure that you are subscribing to the YouTube channel, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure that you also go ahead and give us a 5-star rating and review. Any thoughts you have, tweet at us on Twitter. Anything that you want us to talk about on the show, mention it in the YouTube comments below. We're always down to discuss whatever it is that you guys want us to discuss. And again, if you didn't get a chance to check out the film breakdown and you want to see the all 22 because you listen to the podcast version of this, I highly recommend that you go check out the video version of this on the Bear Report YouTube channel. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, bear down. Have a great holiday. You guys will hear from us next week.